for, we would know a little bit in advance whenever the bill would come into effect, and then normally the PUCO would then have to implement that ruling. So we would have probably a 3 to 5 month lead time before utilities would act, because they're still collecting money. They'd either have to return that or keep funding the program. It's likely they would keep funding the program until the money ran out. That's how they've done it in the past.
Okay. So generally though, based on what we're seeing here, should there be some legislation passed in the State House, these numbers will all change.
The rebate column would go away. So the $80,000 grant would stay. That is federal funds, but the AEP electric rebates would go. And there's kind of two ways to look at that. You could say, I want to get my rebates while they're available. It's kind of a reason to do the LED project quickly, but it is a risk that those numbers could be in jeopardy. It just depends on how the contracting process.
So slide 8, the 166K at the bottom, 80 of that is guaranteed through the state grant, or would not be affected, I should say, through the state grant. But then the rest of that, so about 80K coincidentally would be subject to.
Yeah. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Your energy geeks, I'm a bit of a lighting geek among all my other geekdom. So you mentioned lumen output, foot candle output. Is it the same under LED under all of your scenarios, or greater, at least the same, or greater in every single location?
Yes. Yep. I would say so. So the lumen output will actually be great. Will actually be less in times. The foot candles will be the same or greater. The reason I say the lumen output varies is because LEDs are more directional. You actually don't need as much lumen output. You lose a lot with a fluorescent, because if you imagine fluorescent tubes in these fixtures, it's getting lost in the picture because it's outputting 360 degrees. LED, we can be very directional. So we actually don't need as many lumens to provide the same foot candle levels in the space. And so actually I'll have you, if you want to look at it in the appendix at the last slide, that would be an example of the gym where we've modeled the fixture that we're proposing to make sure that we're giving you as the same or better foot candle levels. And then we're also comparing it to the OSDM level, what's recommended by the state.
Color temperature? Same everywhere, or are you site specific?
Site specific, yeah. So you take the theater, for example, we want to be probably 2,700 to 3,000K. Classrooms, we've had a good luck with 4,000K. It's ultimately up to the district. We make a recommendation, but it's really up to them. We've had some districts prefer 5,000K, which I would say this is probably 5.5. Yeah, right. So yeah, the district has the ultimate say. We can make recommendations. Theaters and things like that, obviously we want to go warmer. But we do want to try and be consistent across all the buildings. Classroom spaces, things like that, provide a consistent solution.
And your guarantees, you mentioned that everything's guaranteed. What number is guaranteed?
We've offered to Becky and Michael a couple options for that. So the less expensive option for us to guarantee is the lighting savings numbers. We offered them an option to contract that, even though it's a higher dollar figure savings. It's very straightforward to measure and document, because as we, using Hamilton as an example, we can go around to every panel, or a percentage of the panels in the building to meet IPM-BP standard, and we will take a voltmeter to that panel, document it while all the lights are on before the project starts, and then have Dwight, in this case likely, or someone, district staff, sign off on that measurement. And then we come back when the project's done, turn all the lights on again, put the voltmeter on it again. It's very clear. There is no back and forth. It's either we screwed up the math, and know it right at that point, or we didn't, right? Because there's a certain fixed quantity of fixtures and tubes, and the math is the math, right? So that's a very straightforward thing for us to guarantee. When you added the boilers, you would have to go option C for those boilers. And those savings, it's harder to document. We'd be doing a bill regression, and there's just more room for interpretation and variables in that. So it becomes more expensive to guarantee on the dollar side of things. Should I share what I shared with you in terms of pricing? Okay, so we're around, I think, between $8,000 and $9,000 per year for the lighting only guarantee. I think we were at between $14,000 and $16,000 for the lighting and boiler. If you look at the energy savings, a high percentage of it is lighting. You're getting a much better bang for your buck on your insurance policy for your lighting dollars than you are for the entire thing. But we're happy to, these things are negotiated, and all the, how it's measured, when it's measured, who's, president measurement, this is all sorted out in a measurement verification contract, energy savings guarantee.
I'd like to just add to that briefly. Most clients, if they go with lighting's probably 85+% of the savings. They would only want to pay for 1 year, because the first year is the hardest to get. If you're going to make a mistake on the wattage differential, you're going to know it that first time through. So they generally opt out in year 2 and beyond. We combine lighting and boiler, that's when they might go a few years before they opt out. We can do it however you want. 1 year opt out, you can structure service agreement. That makes sense for you.
I find it helpful to know we've had to make these right before. We've guaranteed savings, and at North Olmsted, it's actually the only one that we've had to make right. We assumed, we went through and did our audit, and everything we audited had 40-watt T12s. This was about 7 years ago. Turns out some of those were 32-watt T12s. Same bulb, looks the same, very small lettering on it. Well, we screwed that up. So as soon as, it was very clear, right then we're missing 8 watts on every one of these that was a 40-watt, and we had to make that right. Changed our processes very quickly. We do that once.
Through my geeky nature, I hope you bring the leader.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Is your proposal require doing both, or could we do the LED only and defer the boilers? We'll see about 700,000 proposal on the LEDs. So we'll know what they do.
The way that we do business is through options and not, we are here to provide information and help you make a decision. You pick one room and one school, we'll probably come help you. So there's not a take it or we're going to leave situation.
We really call this the menu that you can pick and choose from however you wish. Yeah, it's up to you.
You mentioned a couple of districts. You've got a massive resume of local districts. You've done a very similar project to this menu that's a couple of years old. Point two, or are these all recent for you?
Green in schools would be one that's boiler and LED, not necessarily funded just by lighting, but we touch both. We've got several commercial buildings in Columbus where we've done both. Ridge Street right downtown, we just finished up. Boilers, condensing boilers, and LED lighting.
So in Hamilton has been installed 2.5 years now. So we have full year results that we've provided the board on that. So there are plenty of school districts across the state we can provide that have more than 2 years of life.
So, Paul, in reference to your question, because John is asking the same thing. So on slide number 8, this is actually the recommendation based upon the work that we've done with PlusSmart over the course of the last 6+ months in our conversations with White. So it is the LED upgrade across the school district for the nearly 9,000 plus or minus existing lights that exist across the school campus with 3 boiler plants that are prioritized. So the middle school is the most problematic. It is the one that last year, if you recall, we came up with a creative solution for to maintain heat, because the middle school is actually heated from the 2nd floor of the cafeteria building, as is the middle school gym and the cafeteria building itself. So we had the pipe issue. Remember, we ran the heat through the air conditioning. That ring a bell now? So that is the #1 priority, because it is still problematic. Now, we got through this winter. There were minor issues, but we can't keep facing the fact that it's not going to continue to be the headache it is. The next 2 are Building E, which is the main academic building for a high school, and H9 combo. Those are the 3 boiler plants that consistently, year over year, over the course of the last 5 years, have the major issues. The other ones that are grayed out are not currently the priority. So it goes back to those 3 boiler plants and the White consistently talks about them, as does Warren, every single year, that these are the 3 problem children that exist in boiler systems. So our recommendation actually is the project scope on page 8. Becky and I have gone through all of the thing with PlugSmart, with White, with Warren, looked at all the numbers, and right now, pending other board conversations, our recommendation is actually page 10 for cash flow to pay for it. So we use permanent improvement funding through capital to actually pay for the project in cash, to actually recoup beginning in year 9, the cost savings to the school district that ultimately gains the net positive, 5 years to 20 years that are projected to be 2.3. We do believe, and Dave mentioned it in our conversations that Becky and I had today, after seeing the guarantee options that came, we agree with Dave's analysis. It needs to include year 1, minimally for lighting, and then the opt-out provisions in the contract that every other school district that we've checked with have opted out after the first year because the energy savings has been produced. So we don't need to continue to pay the $9,000 guarantee after the first year based upon the cost savings that other school districts have verified. So that is accurate.
So Michael,
Please.
I was gonna ask, you said page 10, we're proposing outlay currently at 1.1.
1.3 is the total cost.
Is there a guarantee on fixture light too?
There is a warranty of up to 10 years for schools based on the run times. So yeah, if you had an issue in 10 years on the material itself, it would be covered under warranty.
And then you mentioned the outside, you bid these out, that's your max guarantee is at 1.
That's correct. That's a guarantee max.
Do we have visibility to your bidding process?
Yes. Yes.
If we
Is White, voice and veto power, on material selections and installer selection.
Again, this is not on the board agenda for vote this evening. This is the presentation to allow you to hear the information so we can get follow-up questions and provide you the information in the interim of May 13th and the intent to move forward currently based upon our conversations. But again, if there's interim information that you would like us to obtain, other people you want us to talk to, we're doing the conversations with other school districts since our last conversation, plus or minus a week ago with PlugSmart. We've been talking to other schools to verify that all the information that we've seen and heard is accurate.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Appreciate it. Tom.
Thanks for coming.
Next item is the first reading of the 5-year forecast.
Good evening. It's 5-year forecast time. So, this is just the May update. As you know, we always have to file the original by October 31st. Then by May 31st, we have to do our update and file that with the Ohio Department of Education. We're a little bit early this year in the presentation part because we only have one board meeting in May and we always do 2 readings. So that's why we're doing that in April. We will meet on Monday with the Finance Committee to review all of this with them as well and then bring this back to you on May 13th. As you know, the statement of purpose to create a culture of accountability that achieves the best academic and developmental outcomes for each student is what drives every decision that we make and what really is the focal point of this 5-year forecast. To do just a big picture overview of where we're at, you can see the red line are our expenditures. They are increasing slightly. The blue line is our revenue, almost flat there. You see that in fiscal '20, we will begin to outpace, our expenditures will begin to outpace our revenue by about $285,000. But we are still positive throughout the 5-year forecast in 2023. And it has improved since the May forecast, and I'll talk about that as we go through. So just to discuss some of the areas that have some variances in the forecast on our revenue side. We've talked about a lot of these throughout the year with the finance or the monthly financials. So we have about $709,000 more in our revenue for real estate than we had anticipated in October. The really biggest driver in there was that $1.1 million that we received from the city of New Albany. I know that about $550,000 of that is going to move forward. That was from 2 different sources. The biggest is a prior year TIF payment that hadn't been recorded correctly with the county auditor's office, and so they owed us those funds. But we do know going forward that will continue. And that is in the forecast throughout the remaining 4 years. What I did not put in this forecast is anything to do with Google, because I have yet to figure out or receive any kind of absolute documentation that tells me this is how we can calculate what we're going to get from Google. We have seen in the newspaper, and I have talked with 2 people at the city who have told me we expect to receive $500,000 in additional revenue because of the land sale. I have not seen the values. So, and I did find out on a week ago Friday that the city did sign a non-disclosure agreement with Google, so I think that could be a reason that we're not seeing some of that information. We have reached out to Joe Stefanoff to see if he can perhaps help us with that. So I have not included that in this forecast because I can't calculate it. I'm not 100% sure of it. So, but I do expect that we should have some information. So expect to see some changes in real estate in October. Unrestricted state foundation, that's our state funding. I have not made any changes in that for this forecast. And that's because, and we'll talk about that at the end of this presentation about the 2 different funding models that could be coming forward. We are in the beginning of a biennial budget. We don't have any answers yet, so I'm not making any changes to that yet. Though I expect there'll be some kind of change once we get to October, but we won't know for sure until June 30th after. The other line that is significant is all other revenue. That line includes the income tax sharing with the city of New Albany. We do know that we received some additional payments there. One was a $20,000 payment from net profit that was shared with the city by the state. And then $119,000 of that $600,000 positive variance was due to an arrears payment from a company that moved into one of the NAPOT buildings, and they had to pay those arrear payment. And then we've also seen an increase in all-day kindergarten tuition payments. It's really more of a timing issue with those. So we're taking in those tuition payments sooner than we normally would for the next year. So overall, our revenue variance is $1.3 million positive, or within 2.08% of our October forecast. Then on the expenditure side, I am reducing personnel by $300,000. Those are reductions due to attrition. If you remember when we talked about the October forecast, there was a portion of what we knew we reduced from this point until October. We already have part of that in there with the attrition part. I will say that the FTEs for new staff that were built into the forecast, we did come in over budget on those. However, the attrition savings when we replaced staff that were leaving far outpaced that. So we do see additional reductions there. I'm also reducing benefits by $652,545. Sorry, I am reducing that. The biggest driver in the benefit piece is really that our premiums came in under what we anticipated. As a placeholder, we do put in 5%. That's what had previously been included in our negotiated agreement. We've held it there. Moving forward, however, we came in at about a 1% increase this year. I will tell you that the plan design change and the way that folks are actually using the plan is reducing the claims, which drives the reduced premium. So those changes that were made in the last negotiated agreement were paramount to helping us save these dollars. And then you also have some reduced payroll taxes based on the reduction in the payroll line. Purchase services, I'm reducing by $500,000. We did talk about this in the last monthly financials. We do see some transfers from line to line by our buildings and departments. So that's why you're gonna see the $400,000 increase in the supply line. But I still expect that utility savings at a minimum will be less than what we expect, not savings, but reduced utility bills. So I'm reducing that by $100,000. So in total, line 4.5, which is the line we point to with our CIP, has been reduced by $1,052,545, even just from October to now with those items. We will also know as we get to the end of June, we have started the process. We've cut off our purchase orders in the current year. So we'll start to look through all of our old purchase orders to see what's not coming in, but hasn't actually been ordered, and we can start to close those out. So I do expect that we'll see additional reductions once we get to the end of the fiscal year as we work through that. But this $1 million would show, and we'll verify that at the end of June, that we have met our CIP goal of reducing at least $627,000. Michael and I have discussed with the increase in revenue and the decrease in our expenditures, we would like to transfer $1,420,000 from general fund into PI, or just to continue to build that fund. We've just talked about the boiler replacement, lighting repair. That's something that may be coming if the board chooses to move forward with that. You also know that we're working on replacing the ELC playground this year, and that's about $305,000. We know that coming up in either next year or the year after, we'll likely need to replace the primary playground, which is actually more equipment. We don't have a cost on that, but if the ELC is $355,000, it will be a minimum of at least that. So we know that we're going to have continued needs in those areas. So the total expenditure variance is over $367,455, or 1.7% of the October forecast. So overall, there's a $4.8 million positive impact over the remaining 4-year period, or 1.7% of over the years in fiscal 23 ending cash balance. The CIP goal we did meet of reducing by at least $627,000, line 4.5 out of the current year budget. And I want to continue to caution us that even though the ending cash balance is positive and looks great, we are starting to spend more than we bring in fiscal 20. It is only about $285,000, but I do anticipate that the board will put in another CIP goal to reduce budgets next year of about 1%. So clearly, if we can meet that goal, we would eliminate that deficit spending. The positive ending cash balance in fiscal 23 is up from $3.6 million to $8.5 million in the fifth year.
What's the statutory and board policy requirement for ending cash balance?
Board policy is 30 days ending cash balance, which is about the $8 million. Well, no, it's about $5 million. So we exceed that now in the fifth. All things being equal. So here's my caveat. So we're going to talk about the biennial budget and what could happen. We have 2 different funding models that are coming at us. The governor proposed his budget, which basically holds the district, New Albany. We would continue to receive the same funds that we receive now. However, there would be wraparound funds for student wellness and success. In the first year, we would receive about $166,000, and then in the second year, an additional $36,000 or $200,000. I also expect that with that wraparound funding, you would have restricted funds. So we would have to spend those funds on things for student wellness or success. I don't know what that means. I'm sure as we work through this process, if that's what happens, we would have definite guidance on that. But the good news there is that they're not talking about reducing our funding. Then we also have the Cup-Patterson funding model, two legislators who are working together to create a more easily understood funding model, and it is, from what I can see, it's a little easier to explain and understand. There does still, they do still maintain a wealth index, not unlike the current funding model, not unlike what the governor proposed. However, for New Albany, for our district, we would receive in year one, $2,079,000. In year two, an additional $1.9 million. So the impact to the 5-year forecast for that model is actually about $12 million for the ending cash balance in fiscal 20. The caveat I have on that is that that funding model costs about $1.1 billion, which is around $700 million more than the current funding model. They're not funding the current model, they being the legislator, so I don't expect they're going to fund this one. So in my best case scenario, if I were to look into the future, we stay status quo. We've also heard, and I don't know if Mr. McClelland, you have more information on this, but we've also heard that the number that is plugged into the budget for the state aid is the number, not just a placeholder. So if that is the number, then there's no way this Cup-Patterson model is good. There's still a lot of things we don't know. I haven't really seen the actual funding formula for Cup-Patterson to run our own simulation. But if they're going to give us $4 million, we'd certainly be happy to take it. But I don't want us to start spending it.
We don't forecast anything we didn't do.
Right. But I would not be doing my job if I didn't tell you what was coming or could be coming. So with that, questions?
Our next update is an update monthly. This is our.
I think it's the green one in front of you. It's already on, it's already on. You just have to talk.
Sorry. Thank you, Superintendent Soilers and the Board of Education for always allowing us to present. I actually have many items on our kudos tonight. Some of them are from educators that are striving to better themselves, and some of the items are from students that have gone out and made exemplary accomplishments, so I'm excited to share. The first is from our Spanish and Mandarin department. Teachers Lisa Betts, Megan Guthrie, and Jan Homan had the opportunity to attend the Central States Conference for Foreign Language Teachers in conjunction with the Ohio Foreign Language Association for its yearly conference. The staff members attended this conference in Columbus, Ohio on March 14th through 16th. During this time, staff had the chance to attend 3-hour extended workshops that touched on the importance of language immersion, the use of authentic resources, and standards-based learning. Addressing the needs of special education students in global language classrooms was also a topic of conference workshops. During this time, staff also attended a variety of workshops focusing on whole language use, teacher well-being, as well as best practices for global language classrooms. The plethora of resources gained, as well as the lessons acquired through this conference, will help staff create innovative lessons that incorporate technology, authentic resources, and pedagogical practices that address the diverse and unique learning styles of our students, while providing them a global language learning experience immersed in the language and cultural practices of the languages we teach. Moving on, 3 students from Ms. Montague's KAP Drawing and AP Drawing classes received national recognition for their artwork in the National Scholastic Art Awards. Maki Hall, National Silver Key, Francis Chung, National Silver Key, and Olivia Finley, National Gold Key. And Olivia's artwork, by the way, will be exhibited in New York City and in exhibitions around the country for a year. Nearly 340,000 works of art and writing were submitted to the 2019 Scholastic Awards. The winning work was selected by some of the foremost leaders in the visual and literary arts for excellence in originality, technical skill, and the emergence of a personal voice or vision. Receiving a national medal places these students within the top 1% of all submissions. Second grade teacher Becky Wanless completed a multi-year certification program to become a responsive classroom consulting teacher through the Center for Responsive Schools. Responsive Classroom is an evidence-based approach to education that focuses on the strong relationship between academic success and social emotional learning. The responsive classroom approach empowers educators to create safe, joyful, and engaging learning communities where all students have a sense of belonging and feel significant. Dana Pickreese will have a piece of her work in the Best of 2019 show at the Ohio Craft Museum, which opens May 5th. It will be on display until July 28th, and then will travel to the Springfield Museum of Art in Springfield, Ohio. Dave Efron, our high school technology teacher, coached alongside multiple parent mentors to take the high school robotics team to 2 regional competitions. The team did well and was selected to compete at the 2019 First Robotics World Championships. The championships will bring 1,400 plus teams from 70 plus countries together to compete and celebrate. Along with the competition, there is also a large conference with major technology companies, universities, and business sponsors. Students have the opportunity to meet with professionals in STEM and talk to them about academic and career interests. Mr. Efron, along with Doug Jones and multiple parent mentors, will attend the 4-day event with 31 New Albany students. The robotics team meets after school to design, build, program, and test a machine that solves specific tasks. And having a working robot is just one aspect of student learning. The team is student-driven, and students are involved with every aspect, including fundraising, media promotion, travel logistics, as well as building a world-class robot and pit area. Students learn skills in engineering, manufacturing, and design, as well as communication, business partnerships, and peer interactions. Students do all the CAD, metal cutting, electrical connections, and programming. Every student gets to see the project from start to finish and participate in a variety of tasks. As action steps are created, lead students assemble their team, develop a plan, and eventually add their solution to team's completed goals. There are dozens of tasks required before each event, and the team has worked hard to make sure students accomplish these tasks and can experience the success they created. Patty Banis and Matt Byram took 155 high school ceramics and sculpture students on a field trip to Glass Access Studios in Franklinton. The students toured the studio, viewed demonstrations showing various methods of glass art production, and each participated in a one-to-one workshop to create their own hot glass paperweight, thanks to the McCoy Board for funding the majority of the project. And we have 2 more. Lindsay Harrington attended the 2-day Apple training for the Everyone Can Create curriculum. She used the things she learned in that workshop to develop a kindergarten digital art project to support the ELC's E+R=O week. On the iPad, kindergarten students took selfies and created superhero costumes on their photos in markup. Afterward, they used clips to add a comic book filter and emoji stickers to help show their superpowers in the background. And last but not least, Plea members at the high school would like to officially recognize Mrs. Amy Warren, Deputy Principal. Her work is incomparable. Over the last few weeks, she has scheduled students for the following year, which also means she and her team have been diligently attempting to hold to their promises of smaller class sizes all around and decrease the numbers in collaborative settings. She rolled out tentative teaching assignments to teachers in a normal fashion, all while completing her second round of observations. Furthermore, she, with the collegial help of high school play teaching staff members, created a schedule for Ohio State Testing Week. She has also been paramount in handling the recent loss of one of her students. The school staff and students look to her for guidance, compassion, and advice. Her and the administrative colleagues have been proactive, sought feedback from staff members, and have worked tirelessly to see us all through to the end of the year with diligence, expertise, and composure. Plea members of the high school are grateful for our administrative team, and they deserve public recognition and gratitude from the teaching staff at the high school. Mrs. Warren has one lens: student safety, social emotional well-being, and academic growth. If ever there was an administrator who is student-centered, it's her. Thank you very much.
Discussion items, any board liaison reports? With none, I will move on to board policy.
Thank you, President McClellan. Board of Education members, there are 5 sets of policies presented this evening. For second reading, we discussed these at the previous Board of Education meeting. The first 3 as a series of the whistleblower protection pursuant to state and federal law, and then the addition of the authorization to accept and distribute electronic records and to use electronic signatures as a result of the electronic record was a new policy that was recommended by Board Council and Neola to be added within the school district. The other 3 policies relate to health services, anti-fraud, and the religious or patriotic ceremonies and observances are modifications based upon changes, as we previously discussed. But I'm happy to answer any questions we have relative to this specific policy.
Moving on, first opportunity for public participation this evening. None, that will take us to treasurer's items. If I can motion, please, on treasurer's items 7A through C. So, Mr. Bush, Mr. Dubois. Ms. Jacobs.
Thank you. Monthly financials, we are asking you to do both February and March because March's meeting is too early and let's get February close financials to you. But I'll focus on the March financials, basically going through pretty much what I just talked about with the 5-year forecast. You can see the increases in revenue in the lines that we talked about, and then decreases areas where we're under in expenditures as well for the month. I also want to point out that the second to the last page of the financials, I added for permanent improvement funds to track that for the board. So the first section is for the bond levy part, so tracking the revenue and the expenses for that. Then the second middle part is the general fund transfer to permanent improvement, tracking those areas as well. And then the last, if you remember, we don't talk a lot about it, but is the turf replacement. We do have a board policy that the district is supposed to transfer $20,000 annually into that fund because the district, when they put that field in, was responsible for half of the replacement. However, the athletic department at that was in place at, athletic boosters that was in place at that time is no longer exists. The Eagle backers, because they didn't make that promise, are not fundraising for the replacement of the field. And so we actually, in the last couple of years, have tried to transfer additional funds into that because it would be a responsibility once we get there. There was just over $80,000 left of that fundraising money that is with the foundation. So there is an $80,000 amount that can go towards the replacement of the field, but we are going to have to continue. So I expect that in some of these transfers to permanent, a portion of that will, an additional portion of that will go into that. Then the resolution to approve the amended amounts and rates. We did receive from the county auditor's office a request to change the rates. They're setting those for the current year, election fiscal 19, and as I discussed with them, they have reduced the bond millage down to 6.25. But 7.25 is now, 6.5. Or 7.75 is 6.5. So they reduced it another 1.25 mil, so that would reflect the tax bills. So they've asked us to approve the amended rates that they set out. And then the appropriation modifications, I have several. Rotary Fund, we're increasing O11 Fund by $100,000 due to the budget for Eagles Nest and Eagles Center camp facilities. Those have an offsetting revenue account. Public support is being increased. That is due to an increase in the intermediate expenses for Entrepreneur Day and BizTown. So they do fundraising events and they expect funds to come in. And actually, the Entrepreneur Day has increased in the amount of money that it makes each year. So last year, I believe it was 15,000. The year before that, 13,000. So that's for our creators. Corporate make products and sell them to family and and then you go over, it's actually a really fun day, you should check it out, it's pretty awesome, it's fun. But they raise a lot of money and then donate it. And then, we're also increasing athletics for the girls' cross camp. They've raised more money than anticipated, so, we'll just spend it. And then auxiliary services, which is our non-public funds, we've received an increase of $13,350, which is appropriation. State sends to us and tells us what they're giving that.
The turf field, we've had the turf field for what, 5 years?
I came in 2013, and at the football game that year is when it was dedicated.
So this is the 6th year of the field. And the typical lifespan of a turf field is
10 to 13.
13 years. And right now we have, with the 80 that's from the foundation, there's a little over 200,000. What's the typical cost to replace a turf field? So we have 4 or 5 years to get the other.
We haven't started looking at. Don't expect that they'll run into anything major, especially given all the work that we just did with the track, and we found any issues that they're making, so it's just typically replacing that field. So I don't think there's.
Of course, for sure. Sure.
And ours is not the cheap one.
Any questions?
That's why we hope it will.
Well, yeah.
Well, it isn't just grass, right? It's everything, but the grass grows.
Rubber is the base, everything.
Right, so it was not, when it was first bid. Yeah. Good.
It's much more.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Newmaw?
Yes.
Vice President Darrow?
Yes.
President McCollum?
Yes. Now the superintendent's items, can I have a motion, please, for superintendent's items A through E? There, Mr. Bush, sorry.
Board of Education members, the personnel action agenda items are standard employee action items that you will see for resignation, retirement, and/or new hires to get us through the end of this current school year and classified staffing. Contract renewals pursuant to the collective bargaining agreement with OPSI, as well as our continued hiring through the 2019-2020 school year. We have been successful in identifying the high school mathematics and the high school science teacher. Both that will be hired for 2019-20, and they appear on the agenda this evening for approval. Letter B for general business this evening includes several action items related to either contractual agreements or field trip approvals at all. So the first is enrollment of employees' children at work. This is a term and condition of the contractual obligations associated to the plea. Employees hired into the school district prior to 2008 are grandfathered permitted to have school-age children attend their school district when they become eligible for enrollment. So you will continue to see those between now and likely at the end of the school year. Field trips this evening, there are multiple. I'm going to focus on the international, and you have a brochure at your table related to the educational tours that we offer specifically through EF as learning opportunities for global. Opportunities for our students to look at global citizenship. I will tell you in the brochure, the one field trip on the interior page 3 at the bottom right corner, Dublin, London, and Paris, is not on tonight's agenda. This is still a draft brochure. There's a couple logistical things that are still being ironed out related to Dublin, London, and Paris. That will likely come forward in May for approval, and then the tour brochure will be updated through Dr. Hamilton and the high school. All the other trips have been finalized, and the information will start to go forward for student participation, and they appear on tonight's board agenda for approval. In addition to that, Under general business item number 3, I had sent you previous communications for board information related to our ongoing conversations over the course of the last 18 months to continue to go through the process to look at the club teams, specifically for boys and girls lacrosse at the middle school level, to actually sanction them as middle school interscholastic sports and make them officially part of the New Albany local school district and not a club team. That work has come to completion. I will be honest and tell you, the club team has been phenomenal as far as the organization to work with. They're donating the uniforms to the school district that they've recently purchased. They're donating some equipment to the school district. And really the cost in year 1 for us is going to be the introduction of supplemental contracts for middle school boys and girls lacrosse coaches. There'll be a head coach for boys, head coach for girls. It will be offset through pay to participate fees pursuant to Board of Education policy. In addition to that, we have approval this evening through, it's a capital purchase because of the cost. You might wonder why we're buying instrument lockers. We actually have a significant increase in student enrollment in orchestra at the secondary level and actually have to purchase more instrument lockers for the instruments to be stored within. So those are on tonight's agenda. Letter C for donations to the school district. As always, we're very grateful for the generosity of our public. I'll call your attention to one specific highlight. Clearly there was a significant fundraiser that took place at the primary school related to the American Heart Association. There were specific gift certificates given back to the school district as a result of student success to purchase PE equipment as a thank you for the kids. And then in addition to that, the New Albany Community Foundation, as always, through generous benefactors, continues to support the author visits to our school campus. It's an incredible opportunity for our kids. And it is a significant donation from multiple people that also do participate through the foundation. Letter D this evening is permission to have membership in the Ohio High School Athletic Association. It does require a board resolution pursuant to OHSA rules, regulations, and guidelines. So we have to actually adopt membership to participate in interscholastic sports for grades 7 through 12. Letter E this evening for board policy. Again, the second readings that I previously spoke about with recommendations for approval. And then on the addendum agenda, also through the information I sent you, and I did bring the renderings so you can see them, if you want to pass them down. It's for the playground at the Early Learning Center. So as I shared with you, we have outstanding news that we received $241,000 through federal grant to offset the cost of the playground purchase for the Early Learning Center. Most people do not know that the Early Learning Center actually has the oldest playground on campus. It was the equipment purchased in 1999 that was originally installed at the 2-5 Elementary School that was then moved when the 2-5 Elementary School was actually built. They moved the playground from the 2-5 because it was too small, and they put it at the Early Learning Center. So it actually is the oldest playground equipment, over 20 years old. We recently had information received to the school district. We need a plus or minus $100,000 in repairs in order to meet all of the health code safety requirements that are conditional for the state that come in and do inspection. So we're moving forward with a recommendation based upon receipt of the federal grant to significantly offset current capital outlay for the playgrounds, approximately $355,000. It includes excavation, tile, and drainage work because of the wetland process that exists at the ELC. We have water problems routinely and frequently. We hope to resolve all of those with now the playground retrofit. So the good news is $241,000 has been received from the feds to offset it. The additional balance will come from preschool funding that's available to the school district. So we believe that it will be paid for through the federal grant and the preschool money that's available to the school district given the population we're now serving. You will see in the drawings that Paul has, there's some tiles that are coming in instead of just mulch to make it more inclusive for the number of students that are actually in the building now with our preschool unit for 3, 4, and 5-year-olds to have access to the playground. I will preview, because we've already been asked the question, this is great for the educational learning or the ELC and what's going to happen at the primary school, because the primary school will be 20 years old next year as well. And like the ELC, the preliminary assessment's been done, and we need approximately $90,000 worth of retrofitting. on playground equipment at the primary school. And we're now working to determine what other options we have for retrofit and playground replacement in all likelihood at the primary school next summer, up to and including a marketing campaign, lack of a better term, with PTO and or potentially naming rights that potentially could go with it because we have far enough advance notice to work on this over the course of the next year to talk about what specifically can happen at the primary school. But the first priority will be the ELC. The playground at the Early Learning Center will be closed for the entire summer. Construction would actually start the day after school goes out, and it should be completed by July 31st is what we're planning for, so that it's ready to go in August. We did have multiple people come to look at it for bidding purposes. Based upon all the bids received, we are recommending Play World of Mid-States Recreation. They did install the original play equipment that exists here on our playgrounds. And actually the company has ties to New Albany. So it's actually a positive because there's local ownership that actually comes with the playground installation. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
So Jason, with the layout, does that include, is there still green space available for soccer?
Yes, over in the corner, you know where the train is? Okay, so in the train corner, yes, there's green space. So there will still be some green space, but dominantly it becomes tile play underneath the play equipment for wheelchair and walker access.
Is there basketball still included in
We're not doing anything to the basketball court that's there. So what exists is what will stay.
Vice President Nero?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Noah?
there? Yes.
President McCollum?
Yes. We have our second opportunity for public participation, and with no one here, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Are we have people here? No one wants- Thank you. What else you want to say? Mr. Newman. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mr. Noah?
Yes.
Vice President Nero? President McCollum?
Yes. We are adjourned. Our next meeting is May 13th.